What you're witnessing is not just another cross-border spat inflated by bold headlines. It's a profound shift in global power dynamics, unfolding in one of the most unexpected arenas, the trade in basic wood products. This moment exposes vulnerabilities that could reshape economies for generations, with stakes that extend far beyond the price of building a home. Good evening. This is the Anderson Desk, where we cut through the noise to deliver clear, fact-based analysis on the forces shaping our world. Tonight, we examine an escalating tension in North American trade that reveals deeper fractures in strategic alliances and resource security. I'll guide you through the implications, drawing on decades of policy patterns and present-day realities without spin or sensationalism. Before we begin, wherever you're watching or listening from, drop a comment, hit like, and subscribe. We'll continue the conversation in the comments and respond to your questions. The events unfolding now mark a critical juncture in international relations, one where long-standing assumptions about economic dominance are being challenged by calculated shifts in supply chains and national priorities. At the center of this moment is the United States' recent overture to Canada, a proposal that signals a reversal of roles in a relationship historically defined by American leverage. This isn't merely about tariffs or timber. It's a symptom of deeper, systemic challenges decades in the making, rooted in policy decisions that favored short-term gains over long-term stability. To understand how we arrived here, we must revisit the history of the U.S.-Canada softwood lumber dispute. Its origins trace back to the early 1980s, when American producers accused Canadian provinces of subsidizing their forestry sectors through low stumpage fees, the cost of harvesting timber on public land. This sparked what became known as Lumber 1 is less than #0. 1 hash is greater than. The first in a series of trade conflicts that have spanned administrations and economic cycles. In 1982, the U.S. Department of Commerce launched a countervailing duty investigation. While it initially found no significant subsidies, the precedent was set. By 1986, the two countries agreed to a memorandum imposing a 15% export tax on Canadian lumber. That deal collapsed in 1991, triggering renewed duties and ushering in yet another phase of the dispute. This cycle, investigations, tariffs, legal challenges under the WTO and NAFTA, followed by temporary settlements, repeated itself for decades. The 1996 Softwood Lumber Agreement briefly stabilized the market through export quotas, but its expiration in 2001 reignited tensions. By 2002, U.S. duties reached as high as 27%, although billions were collected. Much of it was later returned after Canada prevailed in trade panels. The 2006 agreement brought 9 years of relative calm, using sliding export taxes tied to market prices. When it expired in 2015, no replacement followed. In 2017, the U.S. reimposed anti-dumping and countervailing duties, averaging 20% measures. Canada continues to contest under the USMCA framework. By 2025, the dispute entered a more aggressive phase under President Trump's second term. Invoking Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act on national security grounds, the administration launched new investigations into lumber imports. Additional tariffs pushed effective rates above 24%, with threats of escalation to 45% or more. The stated justification was national security, reducing reliance on foreign supplies critical to housing, infrastructure, and military construction. But the narrative shifted dramatically when reports emerged that U.S. officials had proposed a sweeping is less than #0. One hash is greater than multi-decade agreement valued in the hundreds of billions seeking guaranteed access to Canadian lumber in exchange for long-term commitments, framed as mutually beneficial. The proposal revealed something deeper: anxiety. The United States, long the dominant actor, was now the petitioner. This reversal didn't happen overnight. It reflects decades of U.S. policy choices that eroded domestic production while assuming uninterrupted access to foreign supply. Environmental regulations, often inconsistently applied, have delayed or halted logging on federal lands, which supply roughly 28% of U.S. timber. In the Pacific Northwest, protections for species like the northern spotted owl reduced harvests by as much as 80% since the 1990s. At the same time, chronic underinvestment in forest management left more than 100 million acres at high wildfire risk. Regulatory whiplash across administrations discouraged long-term investment. As a result, U.S. softwood lumber production peaked in 2005 and has since failed to keep pace with demand driven by a housing shortage of up to 7 million units. Housing affordability magnifies the impact. Lumber accounts for 15 to 20% of a new home's material costs. Price spikes in recent years added tens of thousands of dollars to home prices, stalled construction, and contributed to job losses across the building sector. Canada, by contrast, spent years preparing for this moment, recognizing the risks of overdependence on the U.S. market. It invested heavily in diversification, upgrading ports, expanding rail links, and cultivating buyers in Asia and Europe. By 2025, exports to non-U.S. markets had grown dramatically, backed by long-term contracts. Sustainability became a strategic advantage. Canada aligned its forestry practices with global certification standards, appealing to environmentally conscious buyers and meeting strict European regulations. Predictable policy attracted capital, while U.S. ideological swings bred uncertainty. When Canadian officials responded to U.S. overtures by noting that export capacity was already committed elsewhere, it wasn't posturing, it was leverage backed by data. The implications extend far beyond lumber. This episode signals to resource-rich nations worldwide that diversification is the best defense against unpredictable partners. It underscores a national security vulnerability for the U.S., where wood products are essential not only for housing but for disaster recovery, infrastructure, and military readiness. Ultimately, this is not a zero-sum contest of winners and losers. It's a lesson in resilience in a multipolar world where reliability matters more than rhetoric. Canada pursued stability. The United States must now decide whether it will do the same. The conversation continues, and your insights matter.